Hello and welcome to another episode of the Christian Reeve podcast. Today's guests are an alt punk rock band by the name of SNM. They're from the UK. Welcome to the show, everyone.
Hi,
Thank you for having
Christian. Thanks for
us.
having us.
It's a pleasure to have you here. As I was just saying off camera, this is the first time I've had this particular setup, so it's interesting. It's going to be interesting trying to conference this and get everyone's answers, but I think we'll find a way. Since there's all four of you here, and we're going to get a lot of different answers. Let's kind of start, at the beginning and sort of figure out how this kind of came to be. So, where did you guys meet? How did this come to be? Let's start there.
Okay, it started at so me and Mimi, who's the singer, we went to the same school together, which was like an all girls grammar school and like a very oppressive environment that no one seemed to be very happy in. And Mimi was looking for a drummer, and one of my friends said that I played the drums. And so we got together with another girl called Nikki, who was in the band previously, who was the bassist. And we played a few shows with her, but quickly realized that she didn't want to play music
Oh, it's
and
mad.
just kind of wanted to be like in a band for the friendship group, I think. Um, so she used to like laugh at us for wanting to do it seriously. Um, so we swiftly moved on from her. And then you came in, Harry came in.
Yeah. I got an invite around August about 2 years ago, just to come practice with the band and stuff like that. Nikki involved, and we had our first few shows together at this like local jam night that we'd all been playing at. That's how they had seen me play and everything like that. Because I've been in bands with Ethan before and everything like that. We've been mates with each other for a long time. So. Um, Yeah, and that worked out well. And then we needed a bassist for our debut show in London, which is at the Dublin Castle.
I
And
played there. Yeah, great place.
fantastic, yeah. And he stepped in, and it's been like that ever since.
Awesome, man. Awesome. I gotta say, just off the bat, I love how organized it is because I remember like my very first proper band I was in was like a metal band. It was around the London circuit. I was in it for 3 years, and it probably took us a good year before we got our first gig. So, like, props to you guys, man.
Lovely.
Um,
What do you play?
so I sing, play guitar, bit of drums, bit of bass, bit of everything. Right now, I'm back in the studio doing my first album for the solo effort,
Awesome.
Oh,
and yeah, I haven't really decided what what I'm gonna do. Like I need a band basically. So if you're hiring now, just um yeah, I don't know. I'm still figuring it out. And one thing that I found interesting in what you guys were saying there was, like you're very serious from the get-go with the band. And it's interesting, like in that band that I just mentioned that I was in, the rest of the band weren't as serious, and that became apparent later on. But they were serious about music, like respectively. Everyone obviously has like a different goal, and I think the often the tricky part with any band is trying to kind of make that work. Like obviously everyone loves the music, and if you don't, that's strange. But um, but that yeah, you got to sort of come together, meet in the middle. How do you? I mean, what's everyone's goal here? Like, what? Let's look at the overall goal, and then maybe let's go like individual goals. Like, what are we trying to achieve here?
I think the reason why we are together is because we all share the same overall goal. I mean, we've had that conversation a lot individually between each other, um and it's always been, there's been talks of Wembley and stuff like that. I remember
All right, yeah,
everything like that. And yeah, I think we're just all trying to strive for the best personally and as a group, because we're all, best friends outside of the band. So it's just it's a dream,
I mean it helps. It helps certainly to get on. I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I know it's a pretty obvious question, but like conflict resolution, let's say you guys have creative differences, or maybe someone brings a riff and no one likes it, or something like that. Because that's often a tricky one, isn't it, to get around? Now, there's a polite way you can go about that, or there's an arsehole way you can go about that. How do you guys go about maybe conflicts or disagreements, stuff like that?
Probably a bit of both, really. The
Yeah.
arsehole way and the reasonable way, but then you do the arsehole way and realize that you probably should have done the reasonable way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, no,
yeah,
probably just I guess just talking about it like afterwards and sort of make
Yeah.
sure that like if there is a conflict, it's talked about.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I think we all kind of know that we're all learning like the best way to go about this. So, you know, at the time, it's obviously like high emotions, but we have to like leave that for a bit and then come back and be like, okay, well, we're all learning how to do this and communicate like most effectively as a band.
yeah. And that's when you work together and are not, you don't take it personally and just try work on it as a group. It's just that's where it works best, I guess.
So we're mapping this out. You guys been together about 2 years, 2.5 years, something like that, right? And this is so. How long with this specific lineup?
Just over a year.
Just over a year. Okay. Do you guys have management? Do you have anyone? So you're doing it all yourselves. Wow. I got to say, and for anyone listening, watching the show, go check out. Obviously, go check out the band. They're awesome. But everything you have on online, like social media, it's very tight. Like it's very organized, professional. Who's heading that? There's always one person that's heading that. Who's in charge of that? Or is it a collaborated effort?
At the minute, it's Sophie doing like Instagram. Um, I did it for a little while. I feel like we've all sort of like throughout the whole time we've like changed roles a bit. So like one person
Yeah.
did that for a little time. But yeah, at the minute it's Sophie on the Instagram, and then Mimi does a lot of the all of the uploading on Spotify, so she deals with all of that stuff. And then
It's
Harry
just
on TikTok.
it's a solid effort because I mean I have a lot of musician friends, people I follow, people I've had obviously on the show before, and everyone goes about social media a little bit differently. Some people never bother, which I find amazing in this day and age. But it's true. I mean, let's be real. If you look at your gigs versus what social media is doing for you, 9 times out of 10, you're probably still getting the gigs through the traditional means, either word of mouth or approaching directly, emails, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can get lucky, maybe a promoter or someone reaches out to you, but generally speaking, it's going to be through people you know, and then you get booked off that, and then so on and so forth. Like, how are you generally getting your gigs, and what kind of opportunities have you been able to sort of get through social media so far?
Well, it would either be, like you said, just through cold emailing, just loads of random
Straight up,
people.
yeah.
But we do get quite a few messages because we follow quite a lot of other bands on Instagram and try
Sweet.
to keep up with the the whole scene
Yeah, try
and
to go
stuff like
to go
that.
and see as many bands as possible and
Yeah,
like interact with
Ah.
everyone else.
yeah, and
It's
just try and make ourselves involved so that we can. And it's not like we're doing it just to get gigs. Like we love it because we love going to see other bands. We love meeting new people, and just having these new opportunities. But yeah, but people approached us on Instagram. We had a offer the other day. Unfortunately, we can't make it. Um, but yeah, it's a combination of everything really.
It's just impressive, I got to say, because like I know all too well about how the whole networking angle and like same as yourselves. Like a lot of the time, it's just you're out, you're about, you're hanging out in places, you get chatting, and then obviously it comes up in conversation, or you overhear someone, you're like, well, actually, but
yeah.
it's yeah, and that obviously is the best way because you're not expecting. But it is tricky, especially like like I had a few gigs this year, and I've not gigged for years. So it was a pretty big deal, sort of just get back into things, getting into the swing of it. And it goes in waves. So like right now, my focus, other than music, is to just kind of get the record done, get that out, and then it will go back to same as you guys, like emailing, hey, and open mic nights are useful, but I find a lot of the time with that, it's more like, okay, let's give people a quick idea, and then if anyone's listening, great, we can get a gig through that. But you can't really. It's I'd say like it's very much like a beginner's thing, or it's like if you can't get gigs, it's just an opportunity to play. But if you are getting regular gigs, it's fantastic because that's how you're starting to build.
Mm.
So I would presume a lot of people are discovering you online. Would that be fair to say? Or maybe not?
We kind of we have these business cards
Oh,
that say get into S&M on them.
I've seen
And we're
this.
trying to get people to discover us online, basically. Like when we go out in London, we'll hand out as many of those as we possibly can and get people to follow us. So it's sort of more in real life than it is online.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
if you're Mimi and Sophie were at a club the other day, they were just raining them out from the top of the.
It's just like people, I don't know, if I saw one of those, I'd be intrigued. I'd like if I saw a big QR code, I'd open it, and I know I always do. But also just when we're like walking around and we see people, because if we're at gigs, there's clearly like-minded people. So if we see people around our age or someone we think would be interested, we just go up to them and say, hey, like we're in a band, we think you might like it. Here's a business card, come see us. Tell us what you think.
So, and obviously, this is a play on words. Um, I was wondering how to approach this question, but you brought it up, so it's great. Makes my life easier. So, first of all, that's a stroke of genius. I'm surprised that hasn't taken off soon. If it hasn't, as in like, become like a bit more viral, there's still time. I think if anything, that'll become a thing through TikTok or something like that. Um, what's the story behind the band name? Let's go there. Well, like let's like obviously, it's I'm not going to spell it out. We all know what that is, but why call it that?
So when we started the band, it was Sophie, Nikki, and Mimi. We were like 14, and Nikki went, "Ah, guys, our initials sound like S&M," and we were like, "That's fucking great." So
Oh,
we kept
mad. Yeah.
And it was perfect because we were in like, as I said before, like an all-girls grammar school, and the other people that were like musical were in like the Baroque choir and stuff. So so we'd be doing like performances at the school, and it'd be like the different choirs, and then it'd be S&M, and then it'd be like all of that. And we thought it was hilarious and perfect. And then even after, we moved on from Nikki and the band became what it is, it stuck because I think it has a lot of great uh, imagery around it, and also it's just funny watching people's faces.
Yeah, literally the amount of times I've been approached and someone's asked me that question. I'm sure it's happened for every single one of us. They're like, they don't have to say it. They're like, what's that mean?
I, I was going to say, like, how many people message you and they're a bit confused? And they're like,
Yeah.
so I was to understand that you, and you're
Yeah.
like, no, it's a band. And you're like, oh, right,
Yeah,
okay.
it's a fine line of like that
Creeps
I'm
and fans.
yeah, I'm trying to work out right now, especially like having two young girls in the band.
Right, yeah.
We're trying to like, play on it, and it's funny. It's funny to an extent, but we also don't want to make it like like a focus, or like that's the audience that we want to draw in, because we want like musical fans.
I'd say from my perspective, like that's where it ends. Like it's a funny, like, oh, okay, and you're using it as part of the marketing. That's clever. And then you see you guys play, and it's like it's just straight like alt band, but very much like classic grunge style, which is right up my street. I love that. Um, and solid stuff. Like you've been working on this sound for quite some time. Let's go a little bit behind the inspiration. What are the typical bands that you guys are looking for inspiration, or maybe gave you kind of like a jumping point?
Oh, is
Oh,
a big
Oh,
one. Yeah,
ah.
love Courtney Love.
yeah, we are big Courtney Love fans. I think that's I mean, that's where it all started. Me and Mimi
Yeah.
just discussed whole and lived through the album, and I mean, all of them, everything is like was our huge starting point. Um, but then we have a lot of variation with Harry and Ethan in the band.
Hmm.
Like, I don't know, who are some of you guys' inspirations? Because they vary a lot from us.
Um, I guess probably. I mean, I quite like Alice in Chains, that sort of side of grunge, and obviously you got the Nirvanas and the Pearl Jams and stuff. But I don't know. I feel like yeah, everyone's into something a bit different, like that may not like sort of line up with what we play, but then
Hmm.
like it's cool because like me and Mimi, for instance, we wrote a song and she said, "Oh, I want it to sound like so and so by Fiona Apple or something like that." So we wrote a song sort of based off that, and I feel like it's all fused together and it's made something quite good.
Mm.
You mentioned that you're meeting a lot of people in the scene. Yeah, I remember doing the London circuit many years ago. Some old. Uh, are you seeing like a bit of a grunge revival? I mean, I remember a few years back I read about there was a surgence of bands beginning to play more and more grunge again. And this happens every sort of 10, 20 years. You get like a research because obviously grunge its roots are kind of like mid to late 80s going into the 90s, and it depends what type of grunge we're talking about as well because it's quite broad for those who don't know. It's like it's very broad.
Yeah.
um but I guess you could call it like a resurgence. Like what are you seeing in the scene? Like how many other bands similar to you are there in the scene that you're playing right now?
We see a lot of cock rock, which
I think I've
well
heard this term once before, but please explain.
by cock rock, I mean it's kind of the like all male bands, very
Ah.
focused on shredding and like look what I can do really fast with my fingers and stuff. Um,
I mean, we saw AC/DC last night, me and Sophie, and Angus Young decided to whip out a 25-minute solo.
Mad.
And the
25 minutes?
25. Oh my God,
Like 77.
it was all in E pentatonic, and it was hard to watch, man. It's hard to watch.
Yeah. Um,
But you got to love AC/DC, but then it's just like you can't be doing that, you
but
know.
I think because obviously we play our gigs usually with, 3 or 4 other bands involved. So we're always watching them. And I would say yeah, cock rock is one way of putting it. It's still quite like rock male guitar focused. I
Mm.
mean, they call themselves alt rock, but I don't know if I'd say I think it's quite straight rock. There is a few like grunge bands, and I think the punk kind of styles of like quick songs is coming up a bit more. Um, that's what I think I've seen because that tends to get like the crowds going more. Um, yeah, yeah.
Anyone else want to chime in before I move the conversation on? Move the.
I don't know. I feel like when we sort of go to the gigs and you see people, I don't know. It's just my opinion, but I don't. I think there's a lot of people trying to revive things that had happened like 30 odd years ago.
Mm.
And I think it's good to an extent to sort of base yourself on that. But I just don't think like
It's got to have a niche to it
I
that
have
makes
got to
it
be
different.
is what our aims aren't to just stay in the clubs in London. Our aims are to go bigger than that. And you're not going to be you're not going to be taking inspiration from people that are playing, which is if that's like their dream, then that's not a problem. But like it's different to our sort of aim, I'd say. So like I feel like we sort of trying to build this sort of taking inspiration, but also we do need to like there's a niche to it. It's already a niche with 2 boys and 2 girls. I think taking advantage of that is a
Sure,
good.
but what's the element do you think that's going to take you from those clubs to that wider stage?
Depth, I think, is quite a defining characteristic of our band because there's a lot of focus on sound, but I really try my hardest as the person who writes lyrics to create metaphors that spread across all the songs. There is so much depth if you listen to them properly, and I think that's what really sets us apart.
Yeah, I think Mimi's work within the songs, I mean, obviously all of us and all the different elements, but uh, Mimi is a very like focused, deep dive person, and there are just the way that she writes is it creates stories along all the songs, and I think when we get the opportunity and we're still working on trying to be able to like portray that best, so that you can just listen to the songs and enjoy them. But if you listen to each different bit, you know, there's stories to it, there's characters, there's things that link to like uh experiences, religion, you know, everything everything that Mimi's passionate about spreads throughout all of it.
Yeah, the first thing that kind of came to mind when you said that was like concept album. Is that where we're going with that as well? So like, as you said, if someone's listening to say a whole record of yours and they're just listening to the individual songs, they'll get like mini stories, mini lyrical things. But then if they listen to the wider thing, they're getting maybe a bigger story behind. Is that kind of what we're talking about? Or the
Yeah,
aim at least?
I've I've actually written two concept albums, and one of them is called Cilicia. It's based around each of the seven deadly sins, and each song is representing one of them. The other is we have a song out right now called Fawn Over Me, and that is the second part of the five songs in the whole story. People take that song out of context a bit because the lyrics are quite sexual,
Right.
but they tell an important part of the story, but it only really makes sense when you understand the whole story.
Let's explore that for a second, because obviously there is this sexual element to the band, and that is sometimes going to be a focal point for people. You know, it just is, especially if you know you're writing lyrics like that. So you know, we joked about it before, like a mixture of creeps and normal fans. Like that's what's being attracted to the band. But like, who are you seeing at shows? Like, who's your audience? What are you seeing, generally speaking?
It's quite diverse actually. It's
Yeah.
quite a real. I don't think you could guess. I don't think you could pick or guess anyone if you were to. It would just be like. I mean, we have some regulars. Shout out, Roy and Dave. Um, you know that are just always there. And our family as well. But like people that are coming down to watch. It's just a whole range of people from all ages and all kind of walks of life,
Yeah, I think it kind of shocked me because I thought we'd immediately, you know, attract like a younger fan base, but
which is our aim.
which is an aim for us definitely. But I think organically through social media, that's definitely a younger fan base, people finding us and like loving us. But organically through shows, quite a bit like middle-aged older people uh, like our stuff. I think we've been told quite a lot that it's refreshing
Yeah.
to see different elements of it. Like, I don't know. I don't know about our performance. I get told a lot being a female drummer that it's refreshing, but I
Yeah.
think, yeah, yeah.
No, absolutely. I mean, I got to say, like, so I live in Manchester, but I'm originally from London. You guys would fit into the scene like that. And I think I messaged one of you. I don't know who replied to me, but I was like, "You got to come up to Manchester. You need to. You
Yeah,
need to come
man.
up north. You really do,
Yeah.
because you get booked very easily." And yeah, the sound, because you hear a lot of bands up and coming that are around your age range, and a lot of the time you hear the sound and it's like, yeah, it's a younger person's sound, you know, like I remember there was bands when I was growing up, fucking now I'm old, that were very much of their time. So here's a fucking throwback for the older people listening. There was a band when I was a teenager called Hadouken, and they were like, could I describe it? Well, do you know? Do you guys, are you familiar with like what scene kids are? Scene. Do you remember that trend? Okay, you won't remember it, but you'll have heard of it, right? So I was part of that trend at one point. Cringe, and especially for the people that. So I'm 31. So for the people that were that age growing up, you'll know exactly what I mean. that band, if you go back and listen to their songs now, it's very of its time. It's very like if you were a teenager and you were hanging around in Camden at like 14, 15 years old in the 2000s, that made sense back then. Now, if you listen to that like 10, 15 years down the line, it's strange. It's weird. It's like recently, Blink 182 played Coachella. I think it was this year or last year, and there's a lot of comments I saw of like people going like, "Oh, who is this band?" or like, "Why? Who cares?" Yeah, who cares? They're older. Da, 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 da. And it's like I'm starting to understand this a bit more now because time passes and. Like when I was growing up, everyone used to go on about the 80s, and 80s is timeless and classic. Don't get me wrong, but like when people spoke about nostalgia, they would really like big up certain bands, be like, oh wow, it's this, that, and the other. And that's how I feel about the 2000s and bands that I listened to at that age, right? Now, getting back to the original point, like you've got sounds which are rooted in, adolescence, coming of age, stuff like that. And then you've got sounds more like yourselves where it's like it would kind of appeal to anyone. Like that doesn't have like an age specifically on it, which is cool. I think if anything, that makes it like more accessible,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool. And let's explore gigs for a second. So the big one for you guys, you got a festival coming up in I think is it August? Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the festival name again? I didn't have it written down, but it's a pretty big one.
Rebellion.
But that's it, right? How did we get this? Our feeling is this your first festival?
It's our first big, like, proper music festival. We've played a small one in London called Summer's Town, but we got this one because I've wanted to go for years because I've seen the Buzzcocks people like that were playing, and I was
Nice.
so excited. And I saw an advert for it on Instagram saying, we're taking applications for introducing stage, and I thought, fuck it, may as well give it a go. And we got picked, and we're doing it through a organisation called Loud Women, who are trying to help women in upcoming bands in the industry, and give them spots like that.
Yeah, and they
Ooh.
have the most, not only is it an honour to be part of Rebellion, but to be part of Loud Women, because if you look through the bands that they are supporting and helping, I mean, even people like Kim Gordon, I mean, it's just, it's incredible, and it's like a huge dream of me and Mimi's. So, and to bring the boys along to Loud Women, I think
Nice. It's solid to hear that. Like I got a few friends that are like in female fronted bands. I know actually there's a band I'll put you in touch with after this. Shout out to the Cut. All females, and it's always cool to see that in music, particularly in more kind of like powerful positions. You know what I mean? Like it's often is still a male dominated industry, so it's good to see like more female representation. But yeah, that's amazing that there's an organization actually pushing that. Do you know like what other moves they're making right now? And obviously, you mentioned a few acts that they're working with, but is there anything else they're trying to do that's
They
big?
have blogs, they have playlists, they have a radio show,
Okay.
and I think they put on a lot of events. So, for example, on the 28th of this month, we're playing at the Windmill Brixton, with some other bands.
yeah,
So
with
they
all
put,
the other female bands that we're playing with at Rebellion. So it's kind of like the warm up to that gig. But it's just getting these female bands opportunities,
Right.
which, yeah.
Awesome. Okay, well, some fun now. Best and worst gigs and why?
Oh,
Oh,
man.
Let's go with the worst, and we'll end with the best, because then we just reflect on the worst moment, and then be like, oh yeah, but then there was this great moment. So there you go. So worst gig first.
Just trying to think of the aftermath of a gig where we've all just been in just.
I would say the worst gig. So for we've just finished college, and for my final project, I was writing my Seven Sins album, and I had a few weeks to do that, release it and put on a gig, which wasn't necessary. I kind of did more than I needed to because I like working. But I put a lot of pressure on everyone in the band to know the songs and know them really well. And I don't think we had enough time to rehearse because it was like an hour-long set and all of that, and 7 new songs to be learnt that were very complicated. And I have very high standards, like unachievable standards for myself and everyone else. So I think,
And I got concussion
I've
the day
really,
before, and I was in hospital, and I was determined to do it because I knew how big of a deal it was for Mimi, so I didn't want to let her down. And I'm quite, I don't know, things like concussion attract me. I'm always, I don't know, in some kind of state. So I was like, no, the show must go on. But I don't think that particularly helped.
Fucking hell, man. It's like go to the hospital. Fuck the gig. Damn. All right. Well, best gig. Let's take it to a more positive place.
I really enjoyed playing the Black Heart in Camden. I think
Oh,
that was,
yeah.
It's a solid venue, that.
it was a really good fun gig. Because we had really good bands with us as well. We had Cold Blooded Hearts, San Vito Rider. It was a good night. I think it's not just like the gig itself. I think it's the whole everything. Like the sound check goes smoothly. That's a rare occurrence.
I know what you mean. Like there's this the
Yeah.
sound man can make or break you.
Oh, for
That's the reality.
Completely.
yeah.
Yeah, one of the last gigs we were at,
Oh,
the
right.
the sound engineer was we emailed before. So a thing for me is I like to have 3 toms, which is kind of standard for a kit, but I understand that for a house kit, that might not always be there. So I've started emailing beforehand to check, and we emailed and they were like, yeah, we've got all 3. So I didn't bring another one. And I get there and I'm like, oh, could I set up third tom? And he rolled his eyes at me and was like, oh, do I have to? And I was like, it's your job, but like, I guess not. Like, yeah, no, yeah, you do. And like just the whole sound check, the whole performance, he just rolled his eyes at everything I said. He was just sick of me. I'd done nothing but ask him to do his job. I was like, could you turn everyone up for me on the monitors? He was like, they're loud enough. I was like,
Yeah. He even asked as well. He's like, does anyone want anything louder? I think one of us said, oh yeah, bass in this monitor, or whatever. He's like, no.
yeah,
He says to me, I say, oh, can I have some more bass on my monitor? And he goes, turn it up at the amp, which is like behind me. So the sound's just going to go straight through my legs.
yeah.
I'm not going to hear any of that. It's the weirdest thing.
Never understood this. I got a friend, right, who's an amazing sound engineer, but he's similar vibe. It almost sounds like you're talking about it. Nah, I'm just kidding, Adrian. I love you. But no, like there will be moments where it's like, nah, you're not having that. But like sometimes he's right. It depends. Because it's either the artist or the sound engineer's fault. So like, I remember one time he was like, I'll tell you a quick story. So there's this band playing, and the manager keeps staring daggers at us at the sound desk, and he's like, "You need to turn it up." And my friend Adrian just keeps saying to me, like, "He needs to sing louder." Like, not my problem. Look, and he shows me the dials all the way up to 10. Like, it can't go any. And it's like he just needs to belt, and it's like he's right. But then there's other times when it's like, yeah, the sound engineer is just being this weird, mythical pale warden of the fucking sound. It's like, no sound for you. And it's like, why? Like, look, it's going to sound shit. Like, just give me the sound. Like, I can't, because that's, okay, a bit of sound tech for anyone that doesn't understand what we're talking about. Like, so you've got the PA system and everything that can, everyone else can hear, and you have to, this is often why you'll see a sound man stand in the middle of the room and listen. Like, it's really weird, but that's why they do it, so that they can hear if it's balanced. If there's too much bass or guitar or drums or whatever over here. Obviously, in a venue, drums are going to be the loudest thing, just because it's drums. So if you're miking them up as well, it's going to be 10 times fucking louder. So you need to get the levels right so that, one thing doesn't drown something else out. So yeah. And then you've got the PA system, not PA system, the monitors. I can't remember name. You know what I'm talking about. The stuff that's facing you so you can hear. Monitors. I don't know.
Yeah,
Monitors, yeah.
Monitors, yeah, for the stage, but like they're facing the artist so that you can hear what the fuck you're doing. And often, especially for vocals, I often have this problem where if they're not done properly, then you're straining. You're having to push even more, which fucks your voice up. So if it's mic'd properly, you don't have that issue. But if it isn't, that's why it sounds crap. And a lot of people will immediately say like blame the artist, but no. Check to see if it's the sound guy, because it probably is.
Yeah.
we're trying to kind of get ourselves onto IEMs, which is in-ear monitors. Like
Yeah.
they're and
Game
yeah,
changer.
Nimi's using them at the moment. I think we're going to try and wiggle everyone onto it individually. But I don't think they're very accommodating of multiple IEMs at kind of venues like that in London and stuff like that. So
I think it's it's like a friend of mine was saying the other day, like there's levels to this, and when you're playing those smaller venues, the attitude, that's why you get that attitude.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, because that you go on a proper, like when you go on that festival and you say, hey, can you please just mic up these 3 toms, set this up? They'll be like, yeah, absolutely, and there won't be an issue because that's it. It's purpose built for those festivals. That's what they do, right? These smaller venues, they see like 100 million bands come through, and I think they just get sick of it, and they assume that you're asking because you have an attitude problem, and it's like, nah, it's like, we just want it to sound good for the people that come to see us.
Yeah.
And we give 2 shits about our sound.
Yeah.
And but like sometimes I guess that can rub people the wrong way. I've had the similar instances where I've asked for things and apparently it's an issue. I mean, off the top of my head, 2 instances. You mentioned before about having to email to check for drums, right? I remember this very well. So most venues, especially in London, have this policy of what did they used to call it? Like basically, you have to bring your own cymbals and snare, but everything else is provided, right? So one venue, I played the Monarch in Camden. I don't know if it's still there, but famously, Courtney Love played there apparently with Hall. So there you go, bit of fun fact for you. I remember talking to this Australian sound engineer. His voice smelt like sick. It was really horrible. And he was talking to me, like at me, and talking about Hole and all this other stuff. And I'm like, oh, cool. Mm-hmm. Yes, great. Mm-hmm. And then when he was done talking, I ran upstairs and threw up in the toilet. I just ran past my drummer who's just staring, threw up, and he's like, you're right, mate. And I'm like, don't talk to the sound engineer.
Oh,
But here's the thing. So, turn up to the venue and we're like ready and we're like, cool, where's the kit? And he's like, what kit? The kit that we agreed to in the email. No. So we had to go travel maybe like 4 or 5 streets away, rent some drums from a fucking shop and bring them for the gig. Rent them for the gig. Yeah. So there you go. That's one. And then the other one with the sound engineer fucking us was we were playing the only outdoor festival we ever played. And so my hope for you guys is that your festival goes well and then it's booked for the right. No, I mean that genuinely, like as in like it's booked for the right crowd, because we weren't booked for the right crowd. We were, I guess you could say, like a heavy metal post-hardcore band. That was our sound. So we show up and we're like, hey, can we, like the main band has brought their drums and we presumed, because it was what we were told, that we could use the basic setup and we bring our own cymbal and snares. But they're like, no, you can't. And we're like, well, we can't play and we're not ready for an acoustic setup. So what the fuck? And they're like, no, you can't. No chance. And we're just talking to the sound engineer and we're like, well, what are we going to do, mate? Because we've agreed. So what the fuck? And they're like waiting for us to do sound check. And it's like, well, we need the drums to do the sound check. You
Yeah.
prat. Like, come on. So eventually they're like, oh yeah, I spoke to the band. They said it's all right. And I'm like, oh great, how gracious of them. So we were able to then do our sound check. It sounds like shit because now the main band hates us and the sound guy's just like this, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, that's fine. I'm like, I can
Yeah.
hear it shit. And I just said to the guys before, I was like, do you know what? It sounds like crap, but fuck it. Let's just play. Like, look, we're never going to probably get to do this again. Let's just have a laugh. And we did it. And it was an interesting experience. But I think the worst part about it was that it's a London park. It's a Sunday. Lots of parents and kids.
Yeah.
And I'm screaming about, like, I don't know, just like hatred and politics and swearing a lot. Yeah. I felt like maybe this is not appropriate, but
Yeah.
just have to roll with it, man. Just have to
No,
go with it. So there you go.
That's not cool.
It really was not. It makes for a great story, but when you're there living it, it's not.
Yeah.
It's really not.
Okay.
Speaking of, like, has anything weird ever happened to you guys? Any strange interactions with promoters or fans or anything like that? It's always some fun stories. Or we're keeping it quiet, is it? An awkward one. It's okay. We don't have to go there.
No. Awkward.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Since like everyone here has got a story, but they'd rather not share it because of just how traumatizing it was. That's the vibe I'm getting.
I think there's a lot of us are probably thinking of a promotion company that I don't think we should name because we don't want to burn any bridges.
Don't want to get sued. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
there we go. Sensible.
But I'm sure a lot of bands would probably. I've spoken to so many people in bars that have played under this company and know that they just rip off upcoming bands in the London circuit.
All right. So I was on the London circuit over 10 years ago, 11 years ago. There was a company back then. I won't name them, but I'll describe what it was like, and you tell me if this sounds familiar. Maybe it's the same company. So you say, hey, we'd like to play a show at your venue. And the first thing they say is, great, how many people can you bring? That'd be the first question. And then you're like, okay. And they're like, okay, we're going to give you 50 tickets. We want you to sell those tickets at, I don't know, £10 a head. And it's on a Wednesday night.
Yeah.
And you're on at 7.
Yeah.
Sound familiar?
Yeah.
Yes.
There you go.
Exactly. And it's a venue hidden deep in London somewhere.
Yeah.
Like you have to get a tube, a bus, and a boat to get to.
Yeah.
Right. And then the best part is so you obviously didn't sell the ticket. Maybe you sold like 2, but you play the gig, right? Comes to the end of the night. They don't give a shit. Promoters there, they don't care. They just said all that stuff in the email, but then when it comes to the gig, they don't care. They've made their money elsewhere, I guess. I don't know how they make their money. I'll just say that much.
Well, I could, with the ticket sales, say you sell 50 tickets, £10 a head, right? That's £500 going to, it has to go to the venue to book out the venue for that evening. And it has to go to the promoters because they're greedy money grabbers, right? And
some, not all. We'll clear that up.
so, and then by the time, like some people have things like after the first 25 tickets sold, you get 50% of the
That's right,
of the rest of the tickets.
Which sounds so nice when you're hopeful and doing it for the first few times.
Yeah, but I mean, again, you just kind of got to take it on the chin and be like, it's exposure,
Well, it's exploitative because, I mean, you guys are what, 18, 19, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was exactly the same age as you guys. And some of the band members in my band were younger than that at the time, like 16, 17, etc. Right? You're kids. Yeah, you're young adults, but still, right? And these promoters are like, my age or 40s, 50s, and they're doing this to a lot of bands. Like that's really fucked up. If you're listening to this and watching this and you're a promoter and you do that, you're a piece of shit. Fuck you.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
yeah, not cool. Because it happened to a lot of like I saw situations. I heard of situations where like they wouldn't let people leave the venue or something, but and would like be like, you owe us money, and it's like this was never part of the agreement. There's no contract. There's like, do you know what I mean? It's
yeah,
and it's you got to be reasonable about these things. Like fuck me, I got a gig on a Saturday night in London quite a few times, and we were a decent metal band. We were playing with other decent metal bands, but guess what? Like all the promotion in the world doesn't help you because at the end of the day, building a following is a hard thing. It takes a while.
yeah.
I mean, just look at what I do. I've been doing this show for 4 years. I've built a very small, sizable podcast following. I've interviewed maybe, oh fuck me, at least 230 odd people. I've been doing music for years, been doing acting for years. It's hard to build these things. It's hard to get people to give a shit. And if you're in a band and you're working that hard, it will come. It will come because with consistency, that's the deal. And I've seen like the shows you play in there's a following there. There's a core audience there. It's building, but they're not going to come to every show.
Yeah.
That's the reality. Yeah, people are skint. That's number one. Number two, it's just the way it is. So, and there's ways you can mitigate that. You can like space out your shows. You can do stuff like that. But the key thing is to build that following, get people excited about shows, and then it will happen. But these promoters, I think, have a very, I don't know. It's not really living in the real world. Like, and back then, like the whole point was you're playing these gigs to build a following. And the reality is you're on stage for about half an hour. It's not a gig. Maybe you get 45 minutes, but it's not really enough time to really get people. It's enough to give people a snapshot.
You got to give an impact. That's the kind of thing we've realized. Like we just got to go in there, give it all we can, play our best set, play our best 30-minute set, and just try and amaze people and get them enticed in what we got going on.
I will say, after looking at your social media, like you got to get more on that. Like there's an opportunity for you there, and I think interaction is key in that. I mean, it's one of those where you got to have a healthy balance though, because I see a lot of artists that get sucked into the following the algorithm shit, and it's like But like, get that music out there. You've got stuff recorded, you've got stuff released, right? You got at least one track you mentioned earlier, "Fawn on Me." Is there any other tracks or an album in the works?
We also have a song called "Born on My Rib" out on everything, and
Okay.
we are in the studio basically.
There
at the
we
moment.
go.
No
Right.
more.
This is how we do it, right? I'm gonna plan it out for the band, right? You get that record out, you get those songs uploaded everywhere on the mainstream, and you just promote the shit out of that. Like 15-second videos, whatever, fun moments. I've seen there's a little bit of it online. I've seen from what you guys have been doing, but you just pump more and more on that out, and then it's weird. Like that's what will ultimately create more opportunities for you. And I've seen it time and time again with so many bands similar to yourselves doing the same thing. But like by all intents and purposes, you guys are doing the right thing elsewhere. Like, you got this festival coming up. You've got constant gigs. Like how many gigs you got lined up for the rest of the year?
That's a difficult one because we're moving to Brighton.
Oh, mad! All right.
Yeah, so Ethan and Mimi are going to Waterbear, a music uni down in Brighton, and me and Harry a working job down in Brighton. So we've been emailing places there, but we can't really set up too many gigs
Yeah.
until,
Yeah. I've got a whole notes page ready of every contact you could imagine in Brighton that I'm just gonna blast email when we're all settled in and are ready to start giving shows and stuff like that. Loads of promotions. So
You need a van. Who here
oh,
drives? Who's driving?
Oh, just failed my test. And
Oh, you'll get it in the end. Don't worry, you'll get it. And then you need to get that van because that's going to take you across country and elsewhere, man. That's what
yeah,
it is.
yeah.
yeah.
Right on.
We're all dreamed of the van. The van.
I gotta ask you. I found this online. on Twitter, you describe yourselves as teenage art noise. What is that?
It's something that someone else described us as, and we struggled so much to come up with a genre for ourselves that we just took it and we thought, yeah, no one can define that, so no one can say no.
Yeah, I think that was actually the promotion company in question actually that came up with that.
Interesting.
Mm.
But you know what? Teenage art noise.
That's
We
quite
are
cool.
teenagers.
Yeah.
We are making art and noise, you know?
I love it. It's brilliant.
I,
It sounds like a good band name, to be honest.
yeah, teenage art.
That's the name of your next record. There you go. Boom.
That's actually quite good.
I like that. I like that.
I expect a 0.1% cut if that makes it.
That'd be 5p.
There we go. 5p. 5p. All
So
right. Go for it.
sorry to interrupt. From your experience with like releases and stuff, with like albums, what's the best way to like, would you say, to release albums? Like, would you do single, EP, album, like kind of?
Right. So I've never released an album. I've only ever released EPs. But from what I can see of the industry and the way it's working right now, I would say your best bet is to earmark the singles that you can do for the record, slowly release them staggered so that you have, like, let's say, okay, first single, and then you've either got a big show coming up after that or something, or a music video. Get some music videos out there. That's going to be a key part of it. And yeah, stagger them throughout the course of, like, let's say a 6-month period. So you got, like, say 4 singles or 3 singles from a record, right? So you stagger that out over 6 months. And then you kind of go, like, release 1, see how that does, release 2. You do teasers for stuff as well, like 5 seconds of a track, stuff like that. You use things like TikTok. And, like, I know how this will sound, but even just something like simple, like the girls dancing to a track, or you guys are out somewhere, or you're on the way to a gig, and, like, I don't know, it's like a POV or something. Like, little things like that, you'd be surprised, can just do numbers for you, because it's your track in that. And if you get people, if there's anything like catchy, like really, really catchy in your music, right? Whether it's a particular riff or a chorus or something like that, like, pay attention to stuff like that. See what other people that are listening to your music are saying, like, about, like, oh, this is really catchy, or I really, really like this. And then use those 10 seconds, 15 seconds, whatever, and start putting that out online and pumping videos out with that stuff. Get that stuff stuck in people's head. Recently, when I've been working on my album, I've been paying a lot of attention to what the producers are saying. They're like, oh, this is really catchy. I can't get this particular song out of my head. Da-da-da-da. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep this in mind, because this is the stuff that's going to really, really help with the promotional side of things. So, like, that's what I would do as far as, like, social media is concerned. Elsewise, it's the standard stuff, email it out to everyone, get everyone on board with it. Really just harass people with it. Just get people obsessed with it.
Yeah,
And
we have our music videos out. We have the Fawn Over and music video and the Born in My Rib music video. So
yes, that's 2.
Yeah, I'm thinking we're hoping to get on that soon with the next single we release, I'm pretty sure. So
that's what I would do. Have, like, a strategy for the release of that and how you're going to clip that out and put it online, stuff like that. Try something different. That would be my recommendation. Try something different that you've not done before. And also look at what other bands, successful bands that are using social media, are doing, and see if you can replicate some of that. But also put your style on it. You don't have to copy other bands, but, like, go, okay, well, what's something that we do that other bands don't do? Or what's something unique to us that we could put as a spin on this? Or, you know what I mean? Stuff
I
like that.
spend a lot of time looking through not the big bands, but the bands that are getting bigger, and, like, just poring over their social media and, like, screenshotting things, creating albums that we can take little bits from and apply. And I'm kind of trying to create that kind of strategy.
I'll say this much, right? You guys have an excellent sound. it's not a case of ability or yeah, I think it really is just a case of having, like I said, something very clear with that strategy.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then it's just a matter of time. Something just pops off, boom. Or you find like, what was that band a few years ago? There was a band doing all these covers, and they had their own music, and their music was great, right? I remember it was during, might have been during COVID, early COVID times. They just did endless covers in their own style, and it all led to them getting like a huge festival slot, like Download or something like that. And they just absolutely killed it. And but that was their particular niche, something they fell on. They were just doing for fun. You know, I see like other silly shit like online. Like there's one band that takes barcodes of products
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
tries to make it into like a metal song. Sick idea, you know?
Yeah,
Think
yeah,
outside the box, see what works for you. You could even tie it to like grunge music in some shape or form. You know, there could be something, an angle there. Um, I think another thing as well that would help is reaching out to other bands that are similar to yours in other places, other countries as well. There's a band in the States called, I think they're called the Gins, and the lead singer is like a dead ringer for Kurt Cobain. And sometimes he leans into that, other times he doesn't. I don't know, but it seems to work either way.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bands doing what you're doing, basically, like your style. So there's very much an audience for this. I think it is just a case of finding the marketing method that works for you. But I think that's key in it as well, because like you can, there's all sorts of shit you can try, but it's more about like what works for you, you know, what feels right for you. You know, when you're like I don't know how comfortable you guys are with like cameras and just like in general vlogging stuff, but like even behind the scenes stuff sometimes can help. Like when I do my stuff on Patreon for my audience, sometimes I'll just record silly shit like like or just like I don't know, me cleaning tables at work, which sounds like really like boring, right? But then you can do stuff like tour diaries and you just like talk over that with a voiceover and that becomes content, you know. Or it can even just be like you driving somewhere and like you like honestly I'd always recommend this next time you go to a show, do like film in two different styles, like so portrait and landscape, 15 seconds here, minute here, put it all together, you've got a video right there and you can do a voice over it, talk about the gig, say how great it was, say how shit it was, say what you learned, this that and the other. I don't know,
yeah.
some
Yeah.
ideas. Why
Awesome.
should people listen to SNM? Who wants to take it?
Hmm.
Who's gonna do this?
You'd be best, Sophie, to be honest.
Me.
Yeah, go on. Sophie.
Okay. Why should people listen to S&M? Because because we're good, because we're really good, because we're passionate, because we are consistently making things and we're gonna consistently be putting stuff out because Mimi's fucking awesome. She's an incredible lead. She's she writes incredible lyrics and songs, and there's stories to them as we were talking about before. And then you have Ethan on bass, who is the most incredible, I mean, musician that I've ever met. I mean, I look up to him. I think it's so rare to see a bass player who's like really stands out in a band. And I think something that we have as a band is that each of us, when you watch us, it doesn't matter who you watch, you're going to be interested. It doesn't matter who you listen to. Um, so there's incredible bass parts, and then there's Harry with obviously incredible guitar parts and great solos, and it's uh, inventive uh, and I'm quite loud and I hit stuff, which you
And
know
Sophie,
is yeah.
I love that. It's perfect explanation for a drummer. It's like, what do you do for a living? I'm loud and I hit stuff.
Yeah, and I think I'm okay at it, and I think
No, you're brilliant. Come on, so
together
celebrate yourself.
together as a blend, um, you'll find similar stuff, but you won't find us.
Yeah,
And
we're what you want.
you, I mean, yeah, I mean, you should listen. Just listen to us. Just give it a try, 30 seconds, and I'm sure you'll listen to more just from that. Um, and also, I think we've got a great image. So you won't just be bored if you've heard our songs so many times because you can't stop listening to them. You can watch us instead. You can watch our music videos, or you can look at our social media.
I love
Yeah.
that. Thank you so much for that. I was expecting like just a 5 second like quick thing,
No.
and you gave me a full length explanation right there. So there's no excuse after watching this, listen to this. There's no excuse for not listening to this band. There you go.
You got
Absolutely.
Thank you, Sam.
Okay, I got a couple of final questions for you, completely unrelated to today's topic. This one I wasn't going to ask, but to be honest, I'd like to kind of get your thoughts on it. So, Kerrang TV has recently ended after 23 years. Now, for my generation, that was a big part of how we got into like alt music in general. The way I got in, and I did a video recently about it. Check it out. It's online. It's on YouTube. The end of Kerrang TV, and I've noticed it's been picking up some hits. And I'm like, okay, well, I'd like to get the first band that I've had on the show in a while's thoughts on this, particularly because I think there is a generational gap here, and it'll be interesting to kind of delve into that because when I was growing up in the 2000s, 2010s, very much it was the case that you'd discover music either through Kerrang TV or Kerrang itself, like an entity through like the magazine was more how we discovered stuff. And if it wasn't there, it was places like HMV. Said in that video that I did that like often I'd go to like the record store and pick out albums based on the cover art. It's just very risky. I got lucky in a few instances, but there was a few duds as well.
Yeah.
And then of course online it was in its infancy, but we were beginning to use various different websites. So back then we had a website called MySpace, which was like our social media place, and we discovered a lot of good music through that. Now, there's always going to be different ways that you discover new music, but that as an entity, Kerrang TV recently just ended, and the joke is that yeah, they played the same fucking 20 songs every day for the last 20 odd years, right? But there were some new bands that were featured over the years, big up and coming bands that were given, um, a chance to shine on their programming, and it was like a gateway, like for some people, I was introduced to it through friends, like just randomly. And I was like, oh, what's this? Oh, wow, look at all these bands. And, like, especially when you first get into this type of music, alternative music, rock, metal music, whatever, there'll be like a particular way. And maybe it's that way. Maybe it's your parents giving you a few records and it goes from there. These days, I find things like Spotify Smart Shuffle is really good. If you have like a playlist, it's actually fucking crazy how good it is. It throws songs that are almost identical to what you already listened to. So it's like, great. But I wanted to get your thoughts on what do you think of the end of Kerrang TV, and also more importantly, how are you guys discovering new music?
I think it comes down to a lot of just your own desire to go out and look for it. You find a band, like you hear a band from a friend, and you look into it. Like there's all these like suggested artists underneath certain albums and certain bands and stuff like that. It's just about trying to find your own way through it, and seeing what
So,
you
so it's mostly like music players is where you guys maybe are discovering your stuff then.
I think I'd say from uh, Instagram as well as Spotify, because looking at the bands that are supporting bands that I love, it's like, okay, well, maybe there's something here. And, you can spiral a lot uselessly on social media, but also quite well. Because I've spiraled and I found a band called Witch Elm, uh, who we've now been to see and are hoping to support. And they have kind of similar music to us. Found them on Instagram and they're fucking awesome. So just things like that, and then seeing the bands that support them, and yeah.
yeah,
Awesome.
I think it really helps being in the industry yourself, like going out and seeing these bands, because you'll watch all these support
Supporting.
bands for this band you're coming to see, and then that's two other bands that you're now interested in to go see. It's just it's kind of like a waterfall effect. You look into one and you'll find three more.
A very eloquent way of putting it. Yeah, I totally agree. I've fell into like the spiral before of doing that, and then like I end up with like oh, I got to take a few days off to go through all this.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
there's so
yeah.
many. This is a fun one, especially because there's so many of you here today. What has music taught you about life? There you go. The deep questions.
Might take a while with this.
Everything.
Everything. Fucking hell.
Every
There you go.
well, no, not everything, but almost everything. Uh, uh, I don't even know. But it's like a purpose and a passion. Like, not sorry, I've got such a bad cold. I actually can't talk.
It's fine. I got really bad
Yeah,
hay fever, so like I barely can breathe in this weather. Honestly, it's the worst. It's like a
yeah,
curse.
it's so bad. Not even just like playing music, but I remember in like year five when I first discovered YouTube. Oh my God, it was life changing. It was like everything to me, being able to put headphones on and escape. Uh, but it's also taught me that there's a lot of like weird, different people out there making like all different kinds of things.
Okay.
Um, and the world is vast and there's a huge variation of kinds of people. Do you know what I mean? Like that sounds silly, but like
No, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
million different genres of music and there's a million audiences for each of them because there's, like-minded people everywhere.
I saw this the other day, and I think you guys can appreciate it as well. Like, it's the best thing you can always be doing is trying to reach your audience, not trying to reach a audience or trying to get, yeah, oh, we need 10,000 followers on Instagram. Like, no, try to find your people. And once you
Yeah,
find your people, it will spiral from there.
yeah,
Like there's some really good bands I've seen up here in Manchester, and I'm just like, it blows my mind that they're not huge, but then I know it's more just a case of a matter of time and being in front of the right people. People have said this to me about what I do. They're like, oh, it's a matter of time before the show takes off or
yeah,
acting, music, or whatever. And it's like, that may be. But the key is to focus on the people that are there watching you, listening to you, and also trying to appeal to said people and kind of replicate what you were already doing.
Yeah,
And that's how you find it. You keep doing your thing and the world will,
yeah,
kind of form around you.
yeah. I feel like the best way to do that is to produce stuff you're proud of and stuff, not trying to make something so that you think it fits into the kind of way that people want it to be. It should be something that you're proud of and something that generally was created by all these different ideas and stuff that people are bringing in and stuff like that. If it's something you're proud of, it's something that's going to be received well by others, I feel like.
Couldn't agree more. Couple of more fun, deep questions for you. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Oh, you didn't come this far to get this far.
to only come this far.
It's fun. It's a big one.
Uh,
I can see Ethan's thinking.
fuck it.
Just trying to process what Harry said.
You didn't come this far to only come this far.
Oh yeah, I see.
Yeah,
That's a good one. Yeah. When I've never thought about giving up, but I have had moments where I'm like, why the fuck am I doing this? And stuff like that really helps because it's like, yeah, just keep going, man.
yeah. You
Keep
can't have
going.
done all of this for nothing.
Yeah.
God
Yeah.
damn. It's got me thinking.
Fuck it's good as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fuck
fuck it.
my
Yeah.
one.
I like
Because
it.
like I tend to overthink a lot, and what Ethan has been working on with me is just we're like it's just music, fuck it. And like if I'm overthinking, if I'm stressing when I'm practicing or anything, just have to be like fuck it, stop thinking, just do it.
Yeah.
Maybe Nike or something, just do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Similar question, different vibe. What's the biggest life lesson you've learned so far?
Actions speak louder than words.
There you go.
Wow.
That's my only one. Don't trust words, trust actions.
Um,
It's kind of fascinating watching him just like the ideas float in.
nothing seems to come out. Nothing seems to come out at the end though, which is that's what it is. As my life lesson is as much as I think there's a chance nothing will come out in the end.
Wow.
No, I don't know. Probably
That right there was pathetic anyway. I was like, wow.
no, like probably like if you've got like a passion, stick to it. Because I've been doing like music since like I was 7, and I'm pretty useless at everything else. So it's like I don't know. It's sort of like if you find your thing, then just go for it.
Yeah,
I couldn't
completely.
agree more.
Couldn't agree more.
All right, final question for you to wrap things up. Do you have any upcoming projects or final thoughts that you'd like to share with our listeners?
The 28th of July at the Windmill Brixton, we are playing, and everyone should come and see us. And then, of course, at Rebellion, we're performing, and we'll be in the studio, so we should have more releases and maybe even an album coming up. So just follow us on socials and yeah.
Fantastic. I just want to say a massive thank you to all of you for appearing on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you, getting to know the people behind the music. And yeah, you've been brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Christian. We really appreciate it, man.
Absolute pleasure. To all the listeners of the Christian Reeve podcast, make sure you get into SNM. Yeah, go check them out. I'll make sure to leave links in the description. This is an amazing up and coming band. And to be honest, I think you guys are going to take off in the next few years. And it's exciting to see you at this stage in your career. And I wish you the very best. And yeah, to all the listeners of the show, make sure you check out the show. Who is that? Who the fuck is that? That's the alarm, not alarm. Sorry, that's the intercom system we have in our flat. It's
Yeah.
just like
I thought you turned around and saw a ghost or something. We couldn't see anything.
oh no, no, no! It just normally I don't have any distractions during my shows. It's like normally just perfect. I get really lucky, but this one time, like last time I fucked up my intro. This time, this right at the end, right at the end. The end.
We didn't hear it, to be fair. We didn't hear it, to be fair.
Yeah, probably no one could hear it except for me. Ooh, maybe I'm losing it. No. Go out of your way to check out S&M. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe on YouTube if you enjoyed the show. Leave a comment, all that jazz. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, leave us a rating there. Leave us a review. Don't forget Podchaser. I haven't seen a review on there in a while. All of these things really help the show. I've seen some increases in the overall viewership and listenership lately, particularly the clips and everything. So yeah, if you enjoy the show, please just share us around, spread the word, and yeah, just let me know who you'd like to see on the show next and what you'd like to hear. And of course, if you want to support me and everything that I do with the show, make sure to go to patreon.com/Christian Reeve, and you get access to monthly shows, a bunch of other behind the scenes content, and all that jazz. Thank you so much for listening and for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.